Tonight on NewsWatch, Mega Millions mania. Ticket buyers line up for their chance at $500 million. What are your chances of winning the record jackpot?
Plus, sealing the deal. Mitt Romney on course to become the GOP nominee. Why he still, however, has problem connecting with voters.
And a horrific story. The 7-year-old snatched from his parents by police. His mother and father talk about what happened for the first time on TV. All this and much more tonight on NewsWatch. All right, tonight's Mega Millions jackpot is the largest in the history of lotteries around the world, Mark.
That's right. I'm Mark Martin, Wendy Griffith alongside me. America is in an all-out lottery frenzy. More than $500 million is on the line in tonight's drawing. Offices today are buzzing with conversations and daydreams about what to do with all that money. Would you give it to charity? Quit your job? Buy a new fancy home or car? There are all conversations going on tonight in living rooms as well across the country. The chance of winning the jackpot are slim, but it's not stopping folks from spending a buck for their shot at hitting it big.
Thousands wait in line, some up to 6 hours, consumed by the lotto fever, hoping to buy the winning ticket. It's the biggest jackpot in history, $640 million at stake in tonight's Mega Millions drawing. That's a take-home of about $389 million after taxes. 42 states, Washington, D.C., and the Virgin Islands are a part of the frenzy. Nearly 400 million tickets have been sold nationwide in less than 48 hours since Tuesday's drawing failed to produce a jackpot winner.
I normally don't play the lottery, but because it was so big, I decided to take a chance.
The chance of winning? 1 in 176 million. You're 6 times more likely to be struck by lightning and 17 times more likely to get hit by falling airplane parts than winning the Mega Millions jackpot.
Oh, it's slim. It's slim. I'm slim, but I'm going to take that chance like anybody else.
Retailers have a stake, too. The retailer who sells the winning ticket receives a hefty bonus. States claim to already be winners.
Texas, all of our revenue goes to the Foundation School Fund. That varies from state to state.
We are going to win.
So what has people in such a frenzy?
For lots of people, it's a form of escapism. It's a way to sort of dream your way out of your current reality.
One psychologist says our memories trick us. He says we remember who wins and where the tickets were bought and mistakenly believe that place is magic. However, even if you do win, history shows there's a dark side.
44% of people who win the lottery, within 5 years, they've blown through all of their winnings.
Jack Whitaker won the lottery in 2002, nearly $315 million.
I can take this much money and do a lot of good with this much money right now.
It didn't exactly turn out as planned. Hardship consumed his life, and many of his winnings were stolen.
And there is a dark side. And Wendy, once again, the odds of winning are 1 out of 176 million. And experts say slightly more men than women are buying the tickets. But when the women venture out there and play the lottery, they're spending more money than the men buying more tickets. So,
interesting. Well, because, you know, they want a better chance. Still, we have a better chance of being struck by lightning.
Yeah, 17 times better chance, yeah.
I think I'll just skip this one.
Yeah.
And, well, but, you know.
I think I will, too.
Yeah. All right.
But you're not judging anybody that does.
Not judging. All right. Well, the U.S. Supreme Court already knows the fate of President Obama's health care law, but they're not telling just yet. The 9 justices cast their votes privately today behind closed doors. The decision comes after 3 days of intense oral arguments and thousands of pages of legal documents. Americans must now wait until June to hear the verdict. Until then, the High Court has the right to change its mind. Vice President Joe Biden says he's confident the Supreme Court will uphold the law. Mitt Romney continues to pull in big-name endorsements from Republican leadership. Today, Congressman Paul Ryan announced his support of Romney. He's the powerful chairman of the House Budget Committee. Ryan says Romney is the best candidate to beat President Obama in November. Former President George H.W. Bush and Senator Marco Rubio also endorsed the former Massachusetts governor this week. Pressure from the GOP establishment for Gingrich and Santorum to drop out of the race is now growing stronger.
Paul Ryan's home state of Wisconsin will hold a primary next week. Romney is leading Santorum there in recent polling, but despite his front-runner status, political analysts still point out that Romney's having a problem connecting to the voters. David Brody reports.
Mitt Romney brings a number of political strengths to the table: a strong economic record, an ability to raise campaign cash, and a well-organized team. A weakness would be his struggle in connecting with conservative middle-class voters.
I'm not convinced that he is conservative enough to really affect change.
The well-to-do Romney has also made some high-class flubs along the campaign trail.
I like being able to fire people who provide services to me. I'm not concerned about the very poor. We have a safety net there. If it needs a repair, I'll fix it.
Romney's advisors have worked to put him in settings where he can show a more caring side, like this economic roundtable in Florida.
Do you have other family with you? You're single or you've got kids?
The numbers suggest an uphill climb for Romney. He's had a hard time winning white working-class voters in crucial Midwestern and Southern states. In the Ohio primary, for example, he did well among those making more than $100,000 a year. However, they made up only 23% of voters. People making between $30,000 and $100,000 make up a much larger 55% of voters, and Romney lost that group handily. But he still insists there's not a problem.
I don't think that I have any challenge whatsoever connecting with people on an emotional level. I do believe that people want to have someone who understands how to get the economy going again.
That philosophy has worked well for Romney so far. Voters consistently say they want someone who can turn the economy around.
We need a good leadership. You need someone who's pro-business. I mean, the guy's obviously very successful, and there's nothing wrong with it. This is America, for God's sakes. This is why we're here. We all want to be successful, and having a guy that's successful in business is what we need.
Romney's ability to spend more money against his opponents has also helped. But candidates like Rick Santorum tell CBN News that the money masks a much larger problem.
Mitt Romney's not going to be able to win the race in the general election by outspending his opponent 12-1. He obviously has a problem. He's not connecting with the people he has to connect with. And he's not getting their support. He's not getting the enthusiasm. And so where are you? And when this is all over, you have a candidate who won't have as much money as Obama, won't have a message that appeals, won't be a candidate that connects with people.
What we know about Mitt Romney is that he has a hard time connecting with middle-class voters in places like Ohio and elsewhere around the country. The polls suggest that. The question going forward for Mitt Romney is, can he actually bring those voters into the Republican fold in 2012? President Obama is definitely vulnerable when it comes to winning the white working class vote. He lost that demographic by 18 points in 2008. His approval rating among them sits at 43% right now. It's an opportunity for Romney.
The question is, are they going to cross over and vote for the Republican candidate? And it would be crossing over. These are Democratic voters. Whether Romney's their kind of candidate, whether he can sort of reach them. And, the problem is he comes off, like an East Coast businessman. And that's not the kind of politician, that appeals to them.
That's a potential issue that's still a few months away. For now, Mitt Romney is still trying to take down his Republican rivals.
I want to bring good jobs back here. I want to see more rising incomes again.
David Brody, CBN News, Youngstown, Ohio.
A Texas construction worker walks off the job after learning he was helping to build a Planned Parenthood abortion clinic. The general contractor hired the worker to pour concrete at this site in Fort Worth, Texas. It will eventually be home to Planned Parenthood, where abortions will be performed. When the worker learned that fact, he refused to do the job because of moral obligations. Other subcontractors are now raising similar concerns, and a nearby pastor is on their side.
However you stand on the issue, you ought to be open about it. And don't, quote unquote, hoodwink other people into violating their convictions.
The contractor building the clinic also built that pastor's church. The pastor has asked the company to remove the church's image from its website.
Yeah, who can blame them?
Well, several governors are defending the controversial ground beef filler nicknamed Pink Slim.
Yeah, for years the product has been found in our ground beef, but recent news reports caused public outrage over the product. The big grocery stores are pulling the product off shelves, but many are saying not so fast and blaming the media for not giving the product of pink slime a fair look. Ephraim Graham reports.
A group of 5 governors and lieutenant governors made their way to Nebraska Thursday to tour the main plant where the beef filler is made. After the recent media firestorm, major supermarkets across the country pulled the product from their shelves, forcing the companies that make the filler to suspend operations at 3 plants, putting hundreds of jobs on the line. Governors in beef-producing states like Texas Governor Rick Perry are fighting back, saying the filler is completely safe to eat.
Let's call this product what it is, and let pink slime become a term of the past.
It's time to end the smear campaign.
The reason I'm doing this is an unmerited, unwarranted food scare.
The company calls the filler lean, finely textured beef. The product meets federal food safety standards and has been in use since the 80s. The Agriculture Secretary says the recent backlash against the product and the company isn't fair.
It's safe, it contains less fat, and historically it's been less expensive.
But critics say the filler should not even be considered beef and that it's made from leftover ingredients once used only in dog food.
People should be much more aware of the foods they're eating.
The company behind the filler is taking about 2 months to try and restore confidence in their product. They say if the market hasn't recovered after that time, they will have to fire hundreds of employees. Ephraim Graham, CBN News.
Coming up, sex trafficking here at home, high school girls forced into prostitution by local gangs.
Are you ready to start making money? Doing the things you're probably already doing online anyway? PeopleString.com is an exciting new social network where you can earn cash and prizes just by visiting your favorite social networks, connecting with friends, using our patent-pending Instaportal technology to visit your favorite websites, or playing games such as The Prize Wheel, The Better Half, and hundreds of others. It's the fun, easy way to make money online.
It's free to join and it makes you ching. PeopleString.com.
John Mapes is 42, mortgage, married, 2 great kids. He wants to protect his family with a $500,000 term life insurance policy. What do you think it'll cost him? $100 a month? 60? 40? Actually, none of the above. John can get a $500,000 policy from a highly rated insurer for under $25 a month. His secret? SelectQuote. SelectQuote is impartial. They'll search the pick of insurers like these to give you a choice of your best prices. SelectQuote has great savings on term life for women, too. John's wife, Carrie, can get a $500,000 policy for under $16 a month. SelectQuote has helped make term life insurance affordable for hundreds of thousands of people since 1985. How about you? Just call this number or visit SelectQuote.com.
Are you ready to start making money? Doing the things you're probably already doing online anyway? PeopleString.com is an exciting new social network where you can earn cash and prizes just by visiting your favorite social networks, connecting with friends, using our patent-pending Instaportal technology to visit your favorite websites, or playing games such as The Prize Wheel, The Better Half, and hundreds of others. It's the fun, easy way to make money online.
It's free to join and it makes you ching. PeopleString.com.
President Obama is moving forward with tough new sanctions against Iran. The sanctions are aimed at Iran's oil exports. The president made the decision after determining there is enough crude oil on world markets that such sanctions won't hurt U.S. allies. The sanctions target financial institutions that do business with Iran's central bank, banning them from operating in the U.S. to buy or sell Iranian oil. The penalties will take effect in June. Israeli security forces battled Palestinian protesters today in Jerusalem. Today is Land Day there. Palestinians and Israeli Arabs hold the annual event to protest Israel's land policies. Israeli forces in riot gear responded to a number of skirmishes in Jerusalem. Thousands of protesters were on hand. The event is normally marked with widespread violence. It appears this year's event was relatively calm.
Secretary of State Hillary Clinton is in Saudi Arabia to discuss the crisis in Syria. Today, Clinton met with King Abdullah about the violence there. The U.S. is looking for ways to unify the Syrian opposition movement. It's all in hopes of further isolating Syrian President Bashar Assad. His government has killed more than 9,000 of its own citizens since the crackdown began last March. Police in France arrested 19 suspected Islamic extremists today in a series of raids. French President Nicolas Sarkozy says the suspects represent a form of radical Islam that won't be tolerated in France. The crackdown comes after the murders of 7 people in Toulouse by a man who claimed affiliation with al-Qaeda. The French government has also banned 4 Islamic preachers from entering the country. Sarkozy's critics say he's bolstering his re-election bid ahead of next month's presidential election.
A Missouri judge upholds the language for an upcoming ballot measure in that state. It's a proposed amendment for the state constitution that will allow prayer in public. The amendment says people have the right to pray in public places in Missouri as long as they don't disturb the peace. If a majority of voters approve it in November, it will be added to the state constitution.
A Catholic student group at Vanderbilt University cuts ties with the school over its non-discrimination policy. Vanderbilt Catholic became the first group to announce it will not re-register as an official student group. The controversial policy says any student can seek leadership positions in campus-approved organizations. Christian groups say the policy violates their right to be led by fellow believers who share their views.
Investigators in Virginia have busted a major underage sex trafficking ring. Investigators charged a Virginia gang with operating a teenage prostitution ring from one of the members' homes. At least 10 high school girls have been identified as potential victims. Police say the gang members gave the girls drugs and alcohol and even threatened them with violence to keep quiet. The men apparently found the girls by using Craigslist and social networking sites like Facebook.
Basically say to them, hey, you're pretty. Do you want to make some money?
Young women, including juveniles, were allegedly targeted, recruited, exploited. The warning to parents is this is not isolated to any one community or any one ethnicity or any one socioeconomic background.
The ring used metro stations and local high schools to scope out victims.
Up next, government abuse. Police snatch a young boy right from his parents. Their crime? Homeschooling. We'll tell you where it's happening next.
If you have diabetes and you're on Medicare, call now for a new pain-free meter. These new meters are more accurate, they're easier to use, and the best news is you don't have to prick your fingers anymore. Call now and Arriva Medical will send you one of these new meters for free. And if you have Medicare, your testing supplies may also be covered. Arriva makes it simple. They bill Medicare directly. There are no upfront costs. And they deliver your supplies right to your door for free. With these new meters, there's no coding, you don't have to prick your fingers, and some of these meters even talk.
Your blood glucose reading is 122.
And if you call 1-800-284-9762, we will send you a free Betty Crocker Diabetes Cookbook filled with delicious recipes.
Call Arriva today. You'd be glad you did.
John Mapes is 42. Mortgage, married, 2 great kids. He wants to protect his family with a $500,000 term life insurance policy. What do you think it'll cost him? $100 a month? 60? 40? Actually, none of the above. John can get a $500,000 policy from a highly rated insurer for under $25 a month. His secret? SelectQuote. SelectQuote is impartial. They'll search the pick of insurers like these to give you a choice of your best prices. SelectQuote has great savings on term life for women, too. John's wife, Carrie, can get a $500,000 policy for under $16 a month. SelectQuote has helped make term life insurance affordable for hundreds of thousands of people since 1985. How about you? Just call this number or visit SelectQuote.com.
Picture this. You, your wife, and your 7-year-old child are waiting on the tarmac for your plane to take off, and suddenly your child is snatched from you by police.
Oh my gosh, that's exactly what happened to one family in Sweden. And now in their first TV interview, they share their shocking story. Dale Hurd reports tonight from Sweden.
It's been called one of the worst cases of government abuse ever committed against a homeschooling family. The abduction by Swedish authorities of Dominic Johansson, a happy, healthy 7-year-old boy taken from his parents in 2009 as they waited to leave Sweden on a flight to India. After the abduction, the Dominic Johansson story spread quickly on the internet. But 3 years later, the family is still not reunited, and Swedish authorities keep finding new reasons why this young man cannot go home. Dominic is the only child of Christer and Annie Johansson, who live on the island of Gotland in the Baltic Sea. This is the first television interview they've given about what was done to them.
And this is about the most fundamental right that you have. You have the right to your own children. You should have.
In 2008, Christer and Annie were making plans to leave Sweden to do humanitarian work in Annie's native India. So they decided it would be best for Dominic to be homeschooled in the final months before their departure. Christer says the Ministry of Education told him they could homeschool, but local officials began to levy fines and threaten them. Then, as they sat on a plane at Stockholm Airport for their scheduled trip to India, police came aboard and took Dominic away. The family was traumatized. Annie collapsed. Dominic, in police custody, started throwing up.
Then he threw up until they transported him to the ER.
I can just hear the screams of my child. My child had no clue, and I have no clue still what's going on.
Christer says they were told that Dominic would be returned in a few days. But when they went to pick him up, authorities had changed their story. They decided that Dominic was at risk. What risk? He had cavities, and he did not have every recommended vaccination. And they said he was shy. As weeks and months went by, Gotland Social Services started finding more problems. They said the Johanssons' home did not have enough furniture. They said Christer was a drug addict, even though he passed a drug test. They said Christer has mental illness, even though he passed a psychiatric exam.
And I took that paper to court, and it had no effect whatsoever. I said, I'm healthy, but the social services lawyer and the social services said that, no, you are suffering from personality disorders and this and that.
Social services said Dominic was developmentally delayed, although here he was flying a plane on Flight Simulator before being abducted at age 7, and also speaking perfect English about the problem with television.
If you see too much TV, you'll get dark under your eyes. If you get dark under your eyes, you will smile too much.
Social Services was also disturbed that Dominic was too affectionate with other children, greeting his friends with a hug and a kiss on the cheek. They called this deviant behavior. And Christer says they've decided that he's a so-called human rights fanatic because he talks about his human rights as a parent.
They just told me several times I'm a human rights fanatic. It sounds so funny.
A human rights fanatic.
Yeah.
Authorities have resisted all attempts to reunite this family, and evidence showing that Annie and Christer are good parents has been completely ignored.
The Dominic Johansson, I mean, that's the home education tragedy of Sweden.
Jonas Himmelstrand heads the Swedish Homeschooling Association.
I believe this is just simply a mistake. They did not realize that they were not allowed to take a child on homeschooling charges alone. So after they took him, they invented all kinds of other reasons. And also pride, I think, which is quite well known among Swedish authorities, that once they've made a mistake, never to admit it.
It is astonishing to me that free governments who've heard about this have not done more.
Michael Donnelly is an attorney for the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, which is helping the Johanssons. He compares the Swedish government's behavior to the Soviet Union.
This local government, backed up now by Swedish courts, have demonstrated that they are capable of visiting the most despicable, totalitarian acts on their citizens, reminiscent of the Soviet Union and communist countries in recent history.
Annie and Christer were only allowed to visit Dominic for 1 hour every 5 weeks. But now that has stopped. A boy who so obviously loved his parents before the abduction now says he no longer wants to see them.
We haven't had any contact with him since November 2010, not a phone call.
Not one.
We don't know how he is, we don't know anything.
Annie, who has a master's degree, suffered an emotional breakdown after the abduction. and now suffers from panic attacks when she talks about what happened. The Gotland Social Services Board has told the media that secrecy prevents them from discussing the case. But Sweden's ambassador to the United States has defended the government's conduct. The Johansson case is still in the courts. But these photos before and after the abduction show what Krister describes as a boy broken into a million pieces. Krister and Annie can only hope this nightmare will end.
Who can live without their children?
You can't live.
You can't. How can you live without a devastated life? In fact, devastated everything.
Dale Hurd, CBN News in Gotland, Sweden.
That is...
If you have diabetes and you're on Medicare, call now for a new pain-free meter. These new meters are more accurate, they're easier to use, and the best news is you don't have to prick your fingers anymore. Call now, and Arriva Medical will send you one of these new meters for free. And if you have Medicare, your testing supplies may also be covered. Arriva makes it simple. They bill Medicare directly. There are no upfront costs. And they deliver your supplies right to your door for free. With these new meters, there's no coding, you don't have to prick your fingers, and some of these meters even talk.
Your blood glucose reading is 122.
And if you call 1-800-284-9762, we will send you a free Betty Crocker Diabetes Cookbook filled with delicious recipes.
Call Arriva today. You'd be glad you did.
John Mapes is 42. Mortgage, married, 2 great kids. He wants to protect his family with a $500,000 term life insurance policy. What do you think it'll cost him? $100 a month? 60? 40? Actually, none of the above. John can get a $500,000 policy from a highly rated insurer for under $25 a month. His secret? SelectQuote. SelectQuote is impartial. They'll search the pick of insurers like these to give you a choice of your best prices. SelectQuote has great savings on term life for women, too. John's wife, Carrie, can get a $500,000 policy for under $16 a month. SelectQuote has helped make term life insurance affordable for hundreds of thousands of people since 1985. How about you? Just call this number or visit SelectQuote.com.
Well, for teens out there who dread the idea of going to the prom solo, there's some hope.
Yeah, a school in Illinois has a long-standing tradition known as the prom draw.
Run down to the ground, all the way down. Extend the right hand and say, "Will you go to prom with me?"
Wow.
Yeah, girls find their prom dates by pulling names out of a hat, and the lucky boys then perform funny skits. Get down on one knee to formally ask the girl who drew their name. It's a long-standing tradition for the 50 kids who attend prom at the Catholic school.
It started because there used to be an orphanage across the road, and the orphanage kids would come to school here. And to help them be more included into the groups, they started this back in the 30s.
Wow, each year students have the option to vote and end the tradition, but school officials are hopeful it's here to stay. I mean, what girl would not pass up a guy in a Scooby suit? Come on.
Absolutely. Works for me every time.
That's all for this edition of NewsWatch.
We'll see you next week. Have a great weekend. God bless you.